Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to wait for you guys to start tuning in. Hello, Instagram. Hello, Facebook. Hi, YouTube. How's everyone doing? If this is your first time joining my live, definitely comment. Let me give you a shout out. Let me know where you're tuning in from. I'm tuning in from Atlanta, Georgia. My name is Ayesha Chidole, and I'm an immigration attorney. I represent clients all over the United States with their family immigration matter. Although we have offices in Georgia and Florida, we represent clients in all states, all nations. Ashani, it's not your first time, but good morning. You can call 407-995-6567 to schedule a consult. Or you could send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751. Yeah, Mr. Pierre, our phone number, I just listed it out right now. Again, it's 407-995-6567. When you get off this live on Instagram, it's also in my profile picture. On my profile page. If you're on YouTube and Facebook, you can obviously see it scrolling through the ticker. But it's also my profile. I see a bunch of first timers here today. Good morning. I am Ariel Janae. It's your first time. Phoebe from New York. Good morning. And Ariel is from Chicago. Welcome, welcome. Edna Marie. Good morning. Good morning, Anita in Tampa. Okay, guys, today I want to talk about conditional green cards and, essentially what your status is when you file for removal of conditions. Because, a lot of people are oftentimes confused about, whether they're still green card holders, what this means for them and stuff like that. But before I get into it, I just want to, first of all, talk about, well, what is a conditional green card? So a conditional green card is essentially a temporary green card that you're given for 2 years. Usually, if at the time you've been approved for your green card, either as a child or as a parent, the married couple has not been married for more than 2 years. If you've not been married for more than 2 years at the time you're approved, you get a 2-year conditional green card. If you've been married for more than 2 years, even if it's 2 years and a day, then you get a permanent, 10-year legal permanent residency card. So today I'm focusing on conditional green cards and what that essentially means for you if you have to, when your green card expires and things like that. So because you get this 2-year green card, typically you cannot just file for a renewal if it expires. It's not like a normal green card where, if your green card expires, you file for renewal or you file for citizenship. With a conditional green card, you essentially have to remove the conditions in your green card. And the way you remove the conditions on your green card is by basically submitting evidence that your marriage is still in fact legitimate, and that you and your spouse, still continued in a good faith marriage. So the reason why they do this is because, when you have short-term marriages and, a lot of marriage fraud cases, they don't want a situation where you get married and you're like, peace out, I'm out, I have my green card. They want to see that your marriage is still legit. So as far as evidence goes, the things that they're looking for are things that show legitimacy after you receive the green card. So let's say you got married in 2018 or something like that, and you got your green card in 2019. So the evidence that they want to see would be evidence from 2019 to 2021 when you submitted for removal, not things from 2018, because those things were the things that you used to get your initial conditional green card in the first place. So hopefully you guys understand the differences there. Now, as far as work, let's talk about that. So, sometimes by the time people come to us, to either remove conditions in their green card has either expired or their green card expires in the process. I'm talking about a 2-year green card here, or they really just don't know, what that entails. Like, what can I do, now that my green card is expired? So the first things first is that, you should be applying for a removal of conditions in your green card before it expires, if you can. Now, if you're doing if you and your spouse are married and everything is good, you should be filing 90 days before the expiration. If you file 90 days before the expiration, you will essentially get your 24-month extension, right? I'm talking about marriages that are happy and everything is good. You will get a 24-month extension. 24 months means 2 years. So you will get an additional 2 years so that your green extension paper, along with your green card, even let's say even though it's expired, will act as a continued green card, which then allows you to work, which then allows you to travel internationally, locally. Basically, you're essentially a green card holder. And you'll hold on to those until they make a decision on your case. Most conditional green cards take anywhere from 18 to 24 months, which is why they give you a 24-month extension. Okay. So now, what about if you're filing for removal of your condition without your spouse, because either you and your spouse have divorced, or your spouse is late, or you are in an extremely cruel relationship, or something like that? If that is the case, you don't have to wait 90 days to the expiration of your green card. Okay, you can do it immediately. And also, if your temporary green card has expired, you can still submit a removal of condition, and explain why it was late. A lot of times when you're dealing with abusive spouses, a lot of the immigrants don't know what their options are. They don't know that without their spouse they can still file for removal and explain what happened to them. So if that's the case, you can still file it late. So now let's say you filed it late, and let me just say you called like 3 years later, just picking a random year, meaning your green card, your 2-year green card expired, 3 years ago. So obviously you're 3 years, really late from doing it. So during that time, obviously you don't have proof to work, or proof of employment, or proof that your green card is valid, and that's assuming they've not even sent you to removal proceedings or deportation proceedings. If that's the case, and you find out that, what, I do qualify, my spouse was abusive, or I got a divorce, but now I've learned, like if you're in this live today, you would have learned today that you can file. And obviously when you get that 24-month extension, technically your 24 months would have expired, because remember, you're 3 years late, and your 24 months would expire, would have expired a year ago. In that situation, you can do what we call an info pass, information pass. It's, short-term info pass is when you schedule an appointment with USCIS, and then you go to your local USCIS field office with your receipt, meaning your filing receipt showing that you have a pending removal of condition application. With that, they will be able to stamp you with a temporary 12-month green card. So once they stamp you with that temporary 12-month green card, then you can use that to continue to work. And then as far as travel, don't travel without speaking to a lawyer if you're in that situation where your green card expired like several years ago, just because you want to make sure that you're not in removal proceedings, because sometimes you might be in removal proceedings, and you don't know about it. So that's really essentially it. So it's similar, to a 10-year green card, but those conditions have to be removed. And if you get denied, an officer can terminate your green card, or can put you in deportation, and they can terminate your green card then. So you want to make sure that you're filing within the timeline that you're allotted to do it. And yes, you can work. Okay, I see some questions coming in, so let me answer some questions before I have to jump off. Magman says, good morning. You're a great lady. Thank you so much. Good morning, Edna from Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta too. Let me see who else we have here. All right, these things are going so fast, so I'm trying to read these questions fast. Okay. So Edna says, if your minor gets an IR2 visa, what's the next steps to take after you get your social security card? I'm not sure what you mean in that when you ask for next steps, because that's an IR2 means that they're green card holders. So they already have a green card. They already have a 10-year green card. So there's really nothing else that that you need to do. Um, so Dinma on YouTube says, my favorite lawyer, love your live videos. Thank you. Says, can I check my VAWA status online? Unfortunately, you cannot check your VAWA status online. VAWA is a very confidential process, and this is done to protect VAWA victims. So the only way that you can check your VAWA status is through your attorney, or you write in a letter where they can basically reach out to USCIS. We have like an attorney line that we can use to find out what the status of your case is. The only thing you can check really for VAWA cases is you could possibly check timelines, like, your processing time, like how long does it take, and where are you in the process. But that's it. It's not uniquely identifiable to you. You just type in USCIS processing time, you type in I-360, it'll tell you how long the cases are taking. You can always enter your own receipt on there in terms of the date, and then it can tell you, what's the earliest time, you expect to be able to reach out or have your attorney reach out to them. Okay. Unruly Cooley says, how long does it take here from NVC after 4 months you reserve your work permit for VAWA case? I don't understand your question. What do you mean, you reserve your work permit and NVC? Are you applying for VAWA within the United States or outside? Because if you're applying for VAWA within the United States, um, um, NVC is not involved. Okay. Katie Ann says, good morning, my favorite lawyer in the world. God bless. Thank you so much. Good morning. Max says, good morning. Please, how does a recent DUI affect my VAWA pending approval? It's not the best, honestly, but it's really subjective and up to the USCIS officer and what happens with your DUI case. What is your DUI? Is it alcohol? Is it drugs? All those things matter. Generally, when you're a VAWA applicant, you have to show 3 years of good moral character. So they have to see that you're a person of good moral character in order for them to approve you. So it will really depend on that officer and their own level of grace or whatever the case may be, and it could potentially be something that you might be able to do a waiver for if it came to that. So it's really hard to say without knowing the particulars of your case and without being the officer that's, adjudicating your case. Good morning, Colleen. Hi, Yolanda from New York. So Dinma says, how can a derivative child in VAWA get her SSN if I also applied for her I-485? If you applied for her I-485, the way that she will get her her social security number the quickest is if you also applied for a work permit for her. So sometimes clients will say, oh, well, do I need to apply for a work permit for my child when I'm doing my adjustment of status? And my answer is, why not? Because one, if you're doing it with your adjustment of status, one, it's free, so you're not paying an additional form fee. Two, it serves as identification for your child and also as a dual travel document if you do it with a travel permit, so that your child can travel inside and outside the United States. And three, it allows the child to get their social security number quicker. Now, as of earlier this year. Was it earlier this year? When did President Biden become president? Last year. So at some point last year, USCIS started including asking you to basically, if you want your social security number, you can list it, you can say yes to that in your I-485. But here's the thing, if you do that in an I-485, you're not getting a social security until they make a decision on your case. So you should select yes always in your work permit application if you don't have a social security number and you want one. Okay. Okay, so this person says, Edna says, my child got an IR2 visa, but it started online that she is stated online that she's eligible for citizenship. So without a consultation, I will not be able to give you legal advice, unfortunately, because citizenship is very different depending on how old the child is. The child could have derived citizenship from a parent, you know, if the child is under 18, they can file for naturalization. So there's so many variations to it. So I'm more than happy to consult and discuss your personal matter as opposed to discussing it on live. So you can call the office 407-995-6567, and then we can figure out what your child is eligible for. Okay. So Uzama says, if you try to remove conditional green card before expiring without your spouse, will it be approved immediately, or do they still have to wait for the actual expiration date before starting your process? So they don't wait for the actual expiration date before they start your process. They start processing your case. But most conditional green cards are not approved immediately, which is why they give you the 24-month extension. I mean, I think the shortest conditional green card I've had approved took 6 months. It's not the norm, but sometimes, you can have an officer who just maybe doesn't have a high caseload or a case that's really high priority. In this case, children were being, atrociously abused and sexually molested. And so in situations like that, they want to be very quick because they need to get those people out of that situation. And that's what happened. But normally, expect 18 to 24 months. Cleopatra says, can't wait for my appointment today. Woohoo! Awesome. So KDN says, do you know how much for the filing fee for parents from outside the US? Well, if you're asking for filing fee because who's filing for the parent? So first of all, you can't file for a parent unless you're a US citizen. So let's start there. And the fees vary when you're doing consular processing. Consular processing is when you're processing someone's petition outside of the US. The first fee that you have to pay is for your I-130, which is a $535. $535. And then when that's approved, then you now have to pay, NVC fees, affidavit of support fees, visa fees, on all those, and then of course the medical exam, however much it costs them. But as far as NVC, I want to say it's about $445 off the top of my head. But that comes, well into the process, maybe 10 to 12 months later. And who knows what the fees will be in 10 to 12 months. So the dream says, are 4 witness letters enough for VAWA? So there's no legal requirement of how many affidavit of support from witnesses you can send. If you have more, send. If you'd only have 4, send. What they're looking for is the content of your affidavit, like how strong is what you're sending? Is it, does it help corroborate your story? So that's what they're looking for. So Teddy says, good morning. You're doing a great job. I have a question. If your U.S. spouse calls immigration line to complain, will it affect your pending removal of condition of application? It could. It could. It depends on what. Well, first of all, the question is, when you file for removal of condition, the question would be, did you file with your spouse? And then your spouse is now calling saying that they want to withdraw or they don't want to be with you anymore. So all those things could potentially affect it. But at the same time, you also have an opportunity to tell your own side of the story. So, you can't just, especially if you're an abuse victim, a lot of abusers threaten to call ICE, call immigration, make fraudulent or false claims on their immigrant spouses, but USCIS cannot take the testimony of an abuser and not hear it from the perspective of the other person, so you still have your own opportunity to air yourself or air whatever is going on in your relationship. And so as long as you have a strong case, it shouldn't affect you. Because people lie and try to, set people up all the time, which is why they've created these laws to protect them. Okay. Dinma says, do I need a police clearance from my home country to submit as proof of moral character for VAWA? I came in 2020. Yes, it would be a good idea since it's not been 3 years since you've been in the US. Okay, so let me see. I have some IG questions. Um, okay, let's see. Sue says, how long does an N400 application take before they schedule your appointment? It's this. The answer to this question varies by state. It is very state specific, and even further down, very city specific. If you want to know how long it takes, you can go to USCIS case processing time, type in your own local field office. So if you're in Atlanta, you will type in Atlanta, Georgia field office, and it will tell you what the average time is. Um, Sorry, guys, I'm drinking my tea. Same thing applies in Florida. If you're in Miami, you type that in. If you're in Orlando, you type that in, or Tampa. I can tell you that in Orlando, Orlando is taking really long right now. It's anywhere from like 12 to 16 months, which is ridiculous. But it's what it is. I would say, you should, and then, I'm trying to think. Tampa, I think, is probably the quickest, 11 to 12 months right now, as far as Florida. Atlanta also taking about 12 to 13 months. So it just really depends. Um, you know, so Andrew Lopez says, why VAWA mostly Denali? I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand your question. So you can type it again. Okay. Um, Call Me Stanley says, how long does it take for a green card holder to bring a spouse to the United States? The answer depends again on one, your application, if you're getting a lot of IRFs back and forth with USCIS. And then once you finish that, it also depends on if you're the country where you're bringing the spouse from, how busy they are. There are going to be some countries where the backlog is crazy. Off the top of my head, some examples are like Jamaica, Kingston, Ghana, Nigeria, like those countries, with the pandemic, because these are countries where they process a lot of visas. During the pandemic, they weren't seeing people, and they took a really long time before they went back to in-person interviews. And then, you have Nigeria that had the initial ban. So they're severely backlogged there. But then you have countries like Cameroon, that's quicker. It's quicker to get an appointment. In fact, it's too quick. And I'm just using that as a random example. So it just really depends, on the country. But, realistically, you just want to plan for at least 18 to 24 months on the realistic side. Like, I'm not somebody who tries to sugarcoat things to you guys. If you've been following me for a long time, you know that I keep it real here. Like, I think it's really important to be transparent and truthful to clients, instead of giving you guys, well, you guys are not my clients, but just generally, I'm talking about when I talk to my clients, instead of giving you something you want to hear. Like, I'm not going to tell you that it takes, 9 months, 10 months, when I know for a fact that the odds of that happening is not true. So it's better that you go in with the expectation, knowing that, it's going to take this long. And then if it's quicker, then that's wonderful, because there are always going to be exceptions to the rule, meaning there are always going to be people that for some reason their stuff just went by quickly, and other people, that their stuff took a longer time. I'll tell you personally, even though I'm an immigration attorney, my spouse is petitioning for his mother, and she's in the process too. And, it's taken a long time, but because she knows, so she's very patient, and, just waiting for the process, because that's just what it takes. Um, you know, Real Princess says, can I divorce after getting a social security number with my vow partner? I can't tell you whether to divorce your partner or not. That's up to you. If you want to divorce your spouse, that's a very personal thing. You have to decide what you want to do. However, if the question is, does divorce affect you if you're submitting a vow petition? The answer is no, unless you submit your vow petition 2 years after your divorce. As long as your vow petition is already in, if you get a divorce, that doesn't affect you. If you haven't submitted your vow petition and you get a divorce, you want to make sure that you at least do it before the 2-year timeline. Okay. All right. Grant says, how long does it take to get a receipt from USCIS for VAWA I-485? This is actually a good question because personally, it's ridiculous right now. So, we are seeing that with VAWA standalones. When I say standalone, I mean like there's no I-485 attached. We're seeing a really long time this year. We're seeing, several months before we get receipts. Really annoying. And I've had to actually reach out to the attorney hotline for several of my clients, like, where the heck is the receipts? What are you guys doing? We sure they was delivered on this date. However, if you submitted it with your, I-485, of course they want their money. So you're probably going to see receipts anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks. So those will generally come around then. Okay. Dinma says, can you use a lawyer's address as a safe address for VAWA? It'll be up to you and your lawyer. In our firm, our clients always use us for a safe address, but it's up to the lawyer to agree to that or not. Okay, I have about 4 minutes. Let me see what else here I haven't answered. So Maki says, good morning. If you only received an advance parole approval letter, can you travel or there's no card? Well, it depends on what advance parole you received. So usually you get combination cards. A combination card means you get a card with your work permit. If you only filed like for an I-130, an I-131, or like your advance parole on its own, or if you're one of the people that is separated your work permit approval and your advance parole, the letter or the documentation you're looking for, the paper should have your passport picture on it. Normally you'll get a normal your normal approval letter for your advance parole is normally not enough. You need that green paper along with a card that acts as your work permit and your advance parole. But some people instead of getting the card, they will get like another letter with your I-94 and like a picture of yourself attached there as your advance parole. So only if you have that one. If you don't have that one, please do not travel until you have it. And before you travel, you want to make sure you reach out to your legal counsel. If I'm your attorney, you reach out to us to make sure that you don't have any pending deportations or anything where your ILIA number is listed that could cause you not to come back in. Somebody asked, did you move to Atlanta? Yes, I moved to Atlanta. My family and I moved to Atlanta. So we've been here for about a week. And stuff. I'm working from the home office because we're doing construction work in our office, but we're really excited and we can't wait for you guys to come start visiting. The office is in Roswell. We're about 4 miles from the Nigerian embassy, about 10 miles from the Jamaican embassy. So stop by when you come to renew your passports and all of that good stuff. We'll schedule an appointment before you stop by, but let's see. Our Florida office is still open though, so you can also schedule a consult there. Everblood says, hey attorney, is it harder for people of color that have a bad background to get a green card? So this is a very interesting question. And probably the last question I can answer today. So I wouldn't necessarily say, so this is a term I would say, and this is my own personal opinion based on the cases that I work with, what I have seen. So generally, people of color could be Black, brown people, or whatever the case may be, basically non-Anglo-Saxon or non-Europeans. What I see is that it's not so much as it's more difficult for people of color to get a green card. What I see it as is it's people of certain cultural backgrounds or from certain countries. I think it's very unfair. I think it's very, very unfair, but it's the reality of what we've seen. I will use Nigeria as an example. I'm Nigerian. I represent a lot of Jamaican clients. I love all my Jamaican clients. Love them, love them. But I'm telling you guys that if you're a Nigerian, and you're on this live and you're putting in your application, Nigerians have a very bad reputation with USCIS. I'm using that country for example, Nigerians, Ghanaians, So what I mean by that is you can be telling the truth about everything, but their first instinct is to believe you're lying. The first instinct is believe you're lying. Like I will have people that have everything, every single thing, and the hoops we have to get through to get an approval. Whereas, using Jamaicans as an example, lucky you guys. I can have a Jamaican that basically has just like sprinkles of stuff, like really doesn't have a strong case, and they're like approved, and I'm like, yay, you know. So I definitely see it in certain African countries where you definitely see that they give them a much harder time. Or, if we go for an interview and I'm like, yeah, this is a slam dunk case, they might be doing investigation for, for like a year or like 6 months before they approve them. A Nigerian client, I've never had a Nigerian client approved on the spot, ever, 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 ever. They usually approved a few weeks later, a few months later, after they do all these investigations. And then add to it, if you were ever married before, and you got divorced, in Nigeria, it makes it that much harder. Whereas there's some people, in some other countries or ethnic groups, we go there and they're approved on the spot. I mean, when I say approved on the spot, meaning they approve you, but they technically can't approve you without their supervisor, but they will tell you, we're going to recommend you for approval. That's what I mean when I say approved on the spot. So in that case, it's not necessarily your race, more so what country you're from. And that is why, if you're from an African country, you know, you definitely want to make sure that you're dotting every single I and crossing every T. I know sometimes it's frustrating. I always say, to just the same way that I say to my kids, when my kids say, oh, why do we have to study? Why do we have to read? Or whatever it is. It's frustrating feeling that, you feel like you have to do more than, somebody else. But it is a means to an end. And if that's what it takes to get your green card, and if that is something that's important to you, then just do it. Just get all your stuff together. Don't be annoyed with your lawyer. Don't be annoyed with my staff when we're like, we need this, because we know that this is what it takes to be successful. You know what I mean? Like, that is why, it's like, I review every case that leaves my office, because I believe that you can't catch enough stuff. So like, I have to go through page by page by page of thousands of documents on a weekly basis. You guys have no idea. But that is because, when you deal with certain clients, you have to be ready for those things. And I have to spot, as an issue spotter, because that's what we lawyers are. We issue spot. What are the potential issues with this application? And I need to make sure we can resolve this before it ever hits the mail and before it ever goes to an officer. So I got to jump off. I'm super late to my meeting, but I'll talk to you guys. I will be live at a later time on Friday, but I'll do the announcement later on what time on Friday, because I have an early appointment. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you guys later.